Hello, and welcome to another Steel Division Divisional overview. And today we're taking a look at the first Hungarian Cavalry Division, or first Lovas, the only Hungarian division to really matter. And for a division that matters, it's pretty good. It's a very fun division. It's personally one of my favourite divisions to play in the entire game, and mainly a 1v1 setting. But it has a lot of cool units that are fun to use, and honestly, it works rather well, and we're going to explain why it does when we jump into this. So, I think this is a good time to jump into this. So it is a B tier Axis division, and it is also a mechanized division. But you got a lot of tanks, so don't worry. In terms of slots, it's pretty generous all over, especially when it comes to the infantry tab. Everything else is pretty standard for the most part. You're not really lacking too much in any key areas. It's a pretty good slot layout. So let's jump into it. So for recon, we got a lot of lovely recon options. Yes, we got the standard rabbit spike, but we got some cool recon armored vehicles, such as the Toady one, which is a 15-point recon tank. It's not a fantastic tank. I mean, it has barely any armor, and its gun, even though it shoots pretty fast, it's kind of like an autocannon, but not full-on autocannon. You know, it doesn't do great penetration. But for 15 points to have an armored vehicle with a machine gun that also has good optics, or high optics to be more specific, that's not bad. And you get quite a lot of them too, like 5 and A, 10 and B, 15 points. You really can't go wrong with that. It's a very good tank, recon tank. Yeah, and you get 2 cards of them, so they're great to spam. And this division involves a lot of spam. You also have his bike AT rifle thing, if you want it. I mean, it's kind of fun to use, but it's not that great. I mean, you think it'd be fast, but it only goes 75 kilometers an hour, so it's still gonna get beat out by jeeps if you're trying to do like an A-phase rush. So it's not really worthwhile, and it's the same price compared to just getting an armored tank with a better... Well, it's actually the worst AT gun, but it shoots a little bit faster in terms of penetration power. You also have the Hungarian Clown Car, the classic. It's alright for 25 points. I mean, it's still using that Solofun 20mm AT rifle, well, cannon to be more specific. Also a decent unit, but frankly I think it's outshone by the Toady 1. The Toady 1 is just really cool. And then we got the Toady 2, which is a bit more of a reasonable tank, a little bit extra armor, and it has a 40mm cannon. It's a very good 40mm cannon because it shoots at 20 rounds a minute with the 1-star veterancy, but it's only an A-phase limited tank, unfortunately. It's not a lot of them, but it's still, you know, pretty good for 35 points for a, you know, a proper light recon tank. You also have your infantry options. You got your 2-man squad, and then you got your larger Troveman squad. This Troveman squad is pretty powerful, because they got 10 semi-automatic rifles, and rather nice ponchos. Yeah. In terms of transports for the recon, really nothing crazy. The Hungarian transports are mostly pretty crap. They're usually slow. There's no armored options, unfortunately. No armed options, unfortunately, so it's a little bit of a shame. You're really just taking them with the regular trucks most of the time. So for infantry, there's quite a few infantry options here with a bunch of silly names that I cannot pronounce. But to be entirely honest with you, these regular Hungarian infantry dudes are not, they're not worth it. Just skip these guys. You don't need to worry about them. There's only 2 units that matter. The Hussarooks and the Hussarooks Goliozuzuk. Yeah, I hope you understood, yeah. I speak Hungarian fluently. Nonetheless, these 2 units, for just like, you know, 5 to 10 points more, are infinitely, that's a bit of an overstatement, much better compared to the other ones. And that's just due to one simple fact. They are equipped with semi-automatic rifles, and a lot of them too. These are 16-men squads, which is pretty damn beefy. And having 14 semi-automatic rifles between them, or 12 in this case for the squad, is nothing to sneeze at. They will just decimate things in town fights, close quarters engagements, unless they're fighting really dedicated CQC units such as Saparis with satchel charges or flamethrower squads. You have a little bit of a harder time, but even then it's a 16-man squad. It's extremely tanky. You can take a lot of shots of them, and they just keep on, you know, they just don't die. They're pretty awesome in that regard. Now, yes, you know, they don't have like a Panzerfaust or whatnot compared to the regular dudes, but semi-automatic rifle spam is rare, chat, and you get 3 cards of these for each of these units, so you might as well just try to take as many as you can, and you got pretty good availability for the most part, so let's see if you just take them unvetted, which is what I do personally, especially with the regular Hussar, because it's got even better in the Grenadier spam, because in C-phase, instead of 27 per card, you got goddamn 36 16-man semi-automatic rifle squads with AT grenades. That's really good. That's really bloody good. They're just easily infantry you take, long story short. I mean, you got leaders, you know, pretty standard. The flamethrower unit's not bad, honestly. You know, it's just like a Stern Pioneer squad, essentially, with SMGs and a flamethrower, if you just need something a little bit more dedicated. But yeah, you just take these 2 guys. It's what you need. And in terms of transports, I mean, it's all pretty basic. You're just taking a truck. It's not a great truck. It's slower than your Opel Blitz by quite a bit. But you just have to make do with what you got. Tanks. Now, the tanks here, if you're looking right now, you may notice all these tanks are really cheap. There's no, like, proper heavy tanks. No proper medium tanks. It's all just light tank spam. And that's a good thing. It's a very good thing of this division. So, in terms of command, you got the Todi 2 commander, you got Turan Run, and you got Turan 2. All pretty standard command tanks. The real 2 main contenders in this category are the Turan Run and the Turan 2. I think it's Turan, I don't know how to pronounce it, I apologise. Both of these tanks, well, the Turan Runs are really the soul stealer for this entire division. Because it's the best light tank in the entire game, by quite a stretch. And it's really due to the fact of its goddamn gun. It's a 40mm, I think it's like a Bofors style gun. Anyway, 17 rounds a minute. Well, yeah, there we go. 17 rounds a minute unvetted. That's not bad. That's pretty good. You can usually get 2 shots off before T-34-76 can get 1 shot off. And that's awesome. That is really awesome. Yes, the penetration on it isn't great, only 65mm. But this thing just rins through volume of fire. And it's only 30 points. You're not going to be having one of them fight 1 tank. You're going to have 2 to 3 fighting 1 tank. If you can't penetrate the tank you're shooting at, you're either going to cause a lot of critical hits because you're shooting so many shots, which means more chance of critical hits, or you're just going to stress them out so much that you just force them to run away and then you can get them to easily surrender. This is the real bread and butter of this division. You're just going to be spamming these guys like crazy, hopefully. Take all 3 cards, always. And always take them unvetted. You really do not need veterancy on these guys. I mean, the A phase and B phase, it's pretty decent availability, but oh boy. The C phase doesn't mess around with 24 per card. That's a lot of tank spam. And only 30 points. Extremely cheap. You can get a lot of them out. You just spam Turan runs, and in the replay you're going to see... You're really gonna see the effect that these guys have in close quarters engagements. And they also have 2 machine guns, which isn't bad. You know, better than only having 1 machine gun. The Turan 2 is a little bit different. This is pretty much equivalent to like a Panzer IV run or a Panzer IIIN, as it's more of a fire support tank. It bouts the same 75mm short-barreled gun, a little bit better penetration characteristics. It does have heat shells, so the regular AP shells are worse. So it has a respectable rate of fire of 12 rounds a minute, which is nice. The only downside, however, is unlike the Panzer IIIN and the Panzer IVF run, the HE shells only do 1 damage compared to 2. It's just because this is technically in the tank slots, and when they're rebalancing tank HE damage, they made it so all support tanks at least do 2 HE damage, while all regular tanks with only a 75mm gun, even though it's pretty much the exact same gun as the Panzer IIIN and Panzer IV-F, only do 1 HE. It's just balance reasons. It doesn't make it terrible in infantry support, but it's not as good compared to those 2 tanks in Crash. But you still get a lot of them. Not as much compared to the Turan runs, but still a decent amount. Only 1 card. I recommend taking a B-phase card usually, just because it's pretty decent availability. Once again, you don't really need veterancy on this guy. It just kind of works and what it does. But yeah, you really just use it more for the infantry support. Support is nothing really too crazy. I mean, you got flamethrower troops, you got your crappy machine guns, you got 50mm mortars, which no one uses. I never use them. I never really find people to use them anyway. They just die a little bit too quickly because it's a two-man squad. You do have a support gun. It's alright. That's all I can really say about it. It's just kind of alright. Looks a bit silly though. And you got your supply trucks, and you got your regular commands. You do have the fantastic Panzer 38T. Such a shame there's no regular Panzer 38T variant, and the only ones are relegated to command tanks. But hey, that's what you get. Anti-tank is also pretty decent. You got the best AT cannon in-game, AT rifle squad, the Pushka, which is standard Scholofun 20mm, been seen in some other of the light tanks. It's pretty good. Fast rate of fire, really good penetration. This thing will really eat up tanks. I find them to be very good in the initial A-phase rush. Get them into like a church tower, for example, and you can snipe off enemy transport units that are coming at you. And heck, you can kill like T-34s with this, I find. Or you can cause a lot of critical hits to force them to fall back. I always have great success using these. And at only 10 points, you really can't go wrong. And you got a decent amount of them. Not great, but not terrible either. You also got a Panzerschreck squad, if you so desire. It's a Panzerschreck, it does Panzerschreck things. In terms of AT guns, you got a 40M 40mm. Too bad it's not 40mm 40mm. That'd be a pretty cool name. But nonetheless, it's just a small 40mm cannon. I believe it's a different. Is it a different one in Turan? Yeah, it's slightly different, I believe, but it does have a worse rate of fire. Well, no, it has the same penetration. I don't know why it has less rate of fire compared to the Tyrannosaurus. It is rather peculiar, because it's also an AT gun. It's more ergonomic. Anyway, that's beside here or yeah. It's a really good light AT gun. Similar to your Pak 36s and your Soviet 45mm, but the difference is you actually have high explosive shells. You're not going to be doing much damage with high explosive shells, but it's something at least. It's not too bad. You also have heat shells. I believe this is the same thing as the Pak 36 with the rocket tube attachment on the front. It's like a big Panzerfaust shot rifle grenade. Pretty good at close range. I mean, 180mm penetration. You can kill IS-2 tanks with this thing if they get close enough. And 800 meters, that's a pretty respectable distance. That's not too hard to get. And you got good availability with these guys. Base 1-star veterancy. They're really good AT guns. Just phenomenal due to their decent rate of fire. And also, the heat shells is nice as well. You got Pak 40s. You got 2 cards of them. Pak 40s are Pak 40s. They're your most hard-hitting AT guns in the entire division. And you're going to want them because as you look in the tanks, we have no real hard hitters here. We do have a hard-hitting anti-tank unit. But this is a pretty important unit for dealing with T-34-85s, KVs, maybe an IS-2 if you can get an APCR shell off. But the funny thing is you only have 2 APCR shells compared to the, I think it's like 4 to 6 that you get regularly with like an Axis unit. So you kind of have to make those APCR shells count. But it's a Pak 40. It's a great AT gun. And you got 1 card of the Hetcher. I mean, yes, yeah, Panzer 38T, but by God, it's the Hetcher at heart. Unlike compared to the Hartnick Hetcher, no APCR shells, which is a little bit of a shame. But it's still a Hetcher. It's gonna hedge. You got really good availability with it. Once again, I recommend taking them unvetted for the extra availability, as you really do need these guys as they're the most heavily armoured tank in the division, and also most heavily armed as well. But it's good, it's the Hetcher, it's well armed, well armoured, it does Hetcher things. Anti-air is honestly pretty cool, because the Hungarians are like, hey, anti-air guns are cool, but you know what's even cooler? If we have AP shells with them. So they have AP shells, unlike compared to any other anti-air units. And by God, the AP shells are really good. It hits harder than your tanks. It hits harder than your little 40mm with regular AP shells. This is surprisingly a very good anti-tank weapon. And it's an anti-aircraft weapon. I'm not recommending to use this, you know, purely for the anti-tank role. You still want to keep it behind your front line and to mainly shoot down aircraft. And it does a good job of shooting down aircraft because it's a 40mm. But if your lines do get broken through and the tanks are coming down the road, you're going to be happy that you had this and not a 37mm flat gun, for example. Because this will mess up T-34s. Once again, fast fire and AP shells, lots of critical hits. You do a pretty good job at that. It's really awesome. It's just... I've managed to get so many funny kills with this... I was about to say AT gun, but anti-aircraft gun. Just when, you know, my line gets broken through and this is my last line of defense. They're pretty cool. Same with the Nimrod. You think it's a bit of an idiot. It looks like a bit of an idiot. But it's more of the same because it has the same cannon inside. But it has a shit ton of armor penetration shells. 240. This is essentially a tank in a sense. You can use it like a light tank. I mean, it only has 30mm of armor. That's why I'm calling it a light tank. But with that much AP shells, you can just go to town on tanks that come at you. And because it's mobile, you can have it pretty up close with your mainline fighting force and still act as a good anti-aircraft unit. Also, you have these heat shells. You only got 4 of them, but they do 200mm penetration and they do 6 damage. It's the same thing. Like, I think it's you take the little Panzerschreck rocket attachment, if I recall, because it only has 800m range. But that's not bad. That's pretty good. This is such a silly unit. It's a silly name, it looks silly, but deep down it is an absolute killer. I've seen replays on Nimrod's just destroy entire tank columns by itself. It's a real unsuspecting killer. I mean, just look at it with its baby puke paint job. But yeah, it's a really good unit. And you got an 80mm AA gun. I never really use this personally. I mean, the other two units are just so much better and more universal. And you only have limited anti-aircraft slots, so you don't want to be taking too much anti-air. But this thing is also pretty decent. But it's just really outshone compared to the other two units. And the AP sales aren't great. It's only 125mm penetration. But yeah, it's a worse flak 88. It's not even 88mm, it's only 80mm. They couldn't get the other 8 from the Germans, unfortunately. Artillery is really good of this division. It has some fantastic options. You got your spotters and your artillery battery leaders. You got some cheap, like, I think these are World War I era artillery guns. You don't really want to use these. They're pretty rubbish. You got your mortars, 80mm and 120mm. They're all bread and butter, I find, are these 105s. I use these the most. As a... Oh, I'm trying to think of the word here. It is very universal, you know. You know, good caliber to fire rate ratio. It's got the radios, which is important, so you get accurate fire. You know, it's not too expensive to resupply, not too expensive to buy. It's just a nice all-round artillery piece. You got off-map. It only drops in 105mm, but it's pretty cheap. You only get one on A phase, it's a little bit of a shame, but it's alright, it's not great. You also have this 149mm, which is a big Bertha gun, essentially. I prefer the 105 still compared to this, as it's cheaper, and it doesn't do that much less damage. Both of them do have smoke, which is awesome. Smoke definitely helps out quite a lot, especially for a division like this, which requires more close-range tactics. But yeah, I just think the Gorin is better overall. But the real game changer in this division is this goddamn artillery observer. It drops 210mm off-map artillery, and you just get ridiculous availability on this unit. You get 3 of them in A phase, 3 off-map artillery units in A phase that drops 210mm batteries. And it's a recon plane as well, and it's a pretty good recon plane. It's not bad. And then you get 6 in B and 9 in C phase. It is ridiculous. I just find this unit absolutely ridiculous. Because you can just spam off-map artillery for days just by flying around and dropping it down. Only 120 points. But it's just so it's just such a card efficient unit. And it can just fill up so much artillery firepower on the field. Just so easily. It's great, whether you take it A phase, B phase, C phase. I always find that you have too many of these guys. Like, I usually take the B phase card personally, and then I have 4 of these guys in my airfield hangar. I just don't know what to do with that many. It's just like, it's so much off-map artillery. I just off-map here, off-map, yeah, that town needs to be leveled, that tank platoon needs to go. And 210 mils do not mess about. They can kill tanks. It's a must-have unit. It honestly is. And also acting as a recon plane is just awesome. It's awesome. And only 420 points. It's respectable. Air power is also pretty good. We got the best fighter plane in game, first off. The CR-42 BIS. I mean, just look at this. This is just pure, you know, air power perfection. Maverick and Top Gun Risky could fly one of these, but unfortunately the US Navy couldn't afford him. It's a great plane, as you can tell. We also have other recon planes. They're cool, but it doesn't have off-map artillery, unfortunately. It's more of your regular on-map artillery option. Yeah. You have Stukas. This division focuses a lot on Stukas quite a bit. You got an 80-point run, and then you got a 100-point run. The main difference is one has 250 kilogram and then some 50s, and the other one has 500 with some 50s. Both of them are pretty good. I personally prefer the 80-point run, as I find it to be just enough, and it's also pretty cheap. And the nice thing is you get really good availability with these Stukas because they're outdated dive bombers at this point. If the enemy does have anti-air, or even just a fighter, they usually die pretty quickly. But if you bring them out early on, they can do some spectacular damage, I find. So not bad bomber for a budget. You also have Cluster Bomber. This is a very important card because, I'm about to say we don't have great ground-based anti-tank. I mean, we do have the Nimrod, the PAC-40, and the Hetchers. But if you really have a bunch of IS-2s that you just really want dead, this thing will make him dead. And it's got good availability. 2 in A, 4 in B, and 6 in C, unvetted. And it's a reliable anti-tank cluster bomber because it has a good spread. It's a bit more focused compared to your Russian cluster bombers, but when you drop the bombs on a tank, it's going to die. That's just fact. The other fighter in this division is a Fokker Wolfie. You know, it's not as good as the CR-42, but if you want something, maybe just, you know, a little bit more German, I guess, and you got the Fokker Wolfie if you so desire. You also have a JU-88. Has a really cool logo. Really like that Night Rich logo. It's alright. It drops, you know, 4 250s. A bit more survivable in the Stuka. But it's not great either. It's not all that great. And then you got Fokker Wolfie with a bunch of small bombs. Not a terrible choice, honestly, because once again, with the recent patch, when bombers drop their payload, they regain the speed equivalent to their fighter version. So it also acts as a decent fighter if you so require. Good for like light carpet bombing areas, such as an infantry blob in a forest, for example. But for more heavy armor targets like tanks, it's not really all that great. And defenses, I don't know where I go over this. Does anyone even play Breakthrough anymore? I mean, you got barbed wire, gun pit, trenches, the Maxim machine gun. This is a good AT bunker because it's a 40mm. It's the not 40mm. It's a Solothurn 20mm AT cannon, and then you got 40mm anti-tank gun bunkers. That pretty much goes over all of the units in this division, so let's take a look at a deck that I built earlier. And this is a deck that I built earlier. Once again, the deck code is in the description below, so let's take a look at it. So this is a Vanguard income division. I feel this is an A phase, B phase Rust division, so it really benefits from that early A phase income. I'm not comfortable with taking Maverick, as you really screw yourself over in C phase with that income if you don't manage to win early on. But the nice thing with this, I find, with Vanguard, is that even though you only get 110 points in the C phase, I mean, if you look at this division, a lot of the stuff's pretty cheap individually. I mean, the most expensive unit individually is like this Fokker fighter plane, and that's really it. So it's not too bad in Vanguard. It's not like playing a heavy panzer division Where without Vanguard income, you're going to have a little bit hard time buying Tigers and whatnot, and like Panther G tanks. But let's jump into it. So Recon, we only have one Recon Infantry, that just means some 2-mans. In A phase, nothing too fancy. After that, we got Toady 2, just because it's decent A phase Recon tank. And then B phase, we just take the Toady spam, because it's a 15-point Recon tank. Can't really complain. Infantry, it's pretty straightforward. We're pretty much just taking Hussars for the most time. One of the AT version, one of the machine gun version in A phase. Same thing in B phase. I am taking him with veterancy. The reason I am is I've only been playing this division in 1v1, and I find that I don't really run out of infantry all that much. I'm not running out in terms of attrition. So I do take the extra veterancy just because I don't need that many. I find if I was playing a team game, probably a little bit different, as I would take the unvetted runs. But yeah, Hussars and then C-phase Hussars. Once again, even though, I mean, you get like Trove Extra of the unvetted run, I just find I don't run out of them, so I might as well treat myself a little bit to a little bit of extra veterancy. I do take a Flamethrower squad. The reason being is I find it's very situational. I don't use it all the time. I only really use it if I'm fighting in a forest, like a big forest, and they got like sapperies and all that crazy CQC stuff, and I need to get, you know, the better first shot advantage. This thing will do that with a Flamethrower. And that's why I take them with 2-star veterancy. I don't use them a lot, but I really am just using them to just try to win over a scary forest fight. After that, we got A-phase leaders and then C-phase leaders. I mean, everyone is essentially just in that crappy little Hungarian truck. But it's pretty good infantry overall. I find it works really well, and goddamn, these Hussars just do not die. They're, you know, such tanky and powerful infantry units. Tanks is Tehran spam. We got 2 A-phase Tehran Run cards, B-phase Tehran 2, and then C-phase Tehran Run once again. We just spam Terrans. Pretty straightforward stuff. Support, really just taking supply trucks, and then the leader. I don't find the other stuff to really be worthwhile. I don't really like his support gun, even though, you know, it's a support gun. The support gun's usually pretty good. It's just not mobile enough, and I want a more mobile force with this division. Anti-tank, we take the AT rifles, we take A-phase 40mm, B-phase Pak 40, and then B-phase Hetcher. Pretty decent anti-tank. We got enough light AT and enough heavy AT to deal with the majority of threats, and the heavy AT is pretty important with dealing with those. Heavy tanks at me, and probably will come out. Anti-air, going pretty heavy in anti-air to be honest, mainly because it also acts as really good anti-tank. We take A-phase and B-phase card at the 40mm, and then we take the Nimrod because it's a really good tank. That's disguised as an anti-tank unit, anti-air unit. See, even I get confused if it's an anti-tank or an anti-air unit. It's both, yet neither. Artillery, mainly just taking 105s. I don't find myself to be using a lot of on-map artillery this division a lot, because I just use the off-map all the time, because you got so many of them. And it's cheap, it's reliable, it will just mess up the enemy's day, and for a division that requires maneuver and mobile warfare, being able to just, you know, drop the initial bombardment down, and then move through and just clear up the wreckage is awesome. Take artillery leaders just for the extra leadership support. But, yeah, I mean, really just using 105s for the most part, which work lovely. And then aeroplanes. I like taking Stukas, so I got A-phase cheap Stuka, B-phase more expensive Stuka, and then B-phase cluster bomber Stuka, then A-phase Fokker Wolf and B-phase Fokker Wolf. Pretty much covers all our bases here. You may be wondering why I'm not using the CR42 bits, even though I did claim it is the best fighter in the game, and I still hold on to that claim. I just want to give my opponent a fair chance, to be entirely honest. I usually find when I bring this unit out on the field, they usually just surrender, and that's just no fun, honestly. I do actually want to play a proper match, so I leave these guys in the hangar. So, overall, the pros of this division. You got tank spam. You got a lot of tanks, and you can spam them a lot, and they're cheap. Even your recon tanks are extremely spammable. You just tank spam at close quarters and you kill stuff. Those Turin runs are absolutely deadly if you get into those, you know, town fight, close forest fights with other enemy tanks due to the high rate of fire that you have. You also have great infantry. Hussars are so good. It's just seriously some of the best infantry in game. Only second to like sturmshooters, really. They're just bloody good. Semi-automatic rifles are definitely a little bit too good in Steel Division 2, I find. I feel like they should be nerfed just a little bit because I find that Hussars just beat out Aftermachikis and, you know, Tank Desoniki and other like SMG squads, even at close range. You just do a lot of damage. And also you have a lot of very good like fire support units. You got your great anti-air, you got your great artillery, you got good air power, you got good anti-tank. Like all those backup, you know, secondary line units really help with your, you know, frontline guys. You got good AT, you got enough tools in your toolbox to really like fill in most situations that you're gonna have to come up against. Whether it's heavy tank spam, light tank spam, bunch of infantry coming at you, you know, heavy air power play, you can cover all of those bases with this division. Now, the one major con of this division that I find is that you just do not have a great time in open ground engagements. You have very limited long-range proper AT weaponry, that being relegated to the pack guns and the Jagdpanzer 38T. All your light tanks, even though they're great, they're cheap, they're spammable, you do not want to be engaging at 2 kilometers against even a T-34-85, as you will just lose them. You really have to maneuver your forces in such a way to try and not engage in large open fields. You want to try and stick in the forest, stick in the towns. I say usually of Hungarians, my personal rule of thumb is I try to only engage stuff as is like 1 kilometer away. I try to keep my tanks in 1 kilometer distance engagements, or closer, preferably. So yeah, just do not stick yourself in the open. And because of that, I wouldn't really recommend playing Hungarian cavalry in like large team games like 3v3s, 4v4s, and especially 10v10s. As those games just really delegate themselves to choke point spam, heavy tank and infantry spam fights. And even though you got the infantry and you got the artillery to, you know, fight in those fights, the tanks just do not hold themselves up against a giant blob of like trove T-34-85s coming at you in an open field. You just cannot deal with that. Even with like your Jagdpanzers and Pak 40s, you just cannot deal with scenarios such as that, which you will encounter in team games a lot. So with Lovas, stick to 1v1s and 2v2s, and you have a really good time. So that's the overview of the divisional structure, so let's take a look at how they actually perform in a match. And we are back, and this is a little bit different because I'm actually covering a replay of a game that I actually played, and I am playing as a Hungarian division. And just to make things clear, I'm playing as the exact same deck that I showcased just previously. The exact same run, no changes whatsoever, but here's a picture of it just in case you forgot. I am fighting against GG Kringle, who's playing as the 3rd Guard Mechanized Corps, also with a Vanguard income, and we are on Orsa North. So yeah, I am playing the same deck. I usually like showcasing 2 decks in these videos, but I find with Hungarians, you know, it's pretty much the same thing for the most part. You're really just going to be doing out light tank infantry spam, and I find this deck to work out really well. Even in a longer match such as this match actually goes on for 45 minutes, and even though you only have Vanguard income, I also find against a person playing Vanguard, so it also helps out, so we both have the same income in the later stages. You know, you do have enough units to survive that attritional warfare, and this is also a very good map for Lovas. It's a lot of close quarters engagements. There's not many too open areas, like the middle is a little bit open, but it's still a lot of cover for you to sneak in and maneuver around. And as I've been mentioning before, this division is very much reliant on mobile warfare. The reason being is that you got the cheap light tanks. It's very easy for you to just, you know, build up a nice cheap battle force and just like push an enemy flank. Yeah, you may have not tried to attack yet, and sometimes you make a breakthrough, sometimes you die, but yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, so looking at the initial deployment, I'm pretty much playing heavily on the flanks here with the Turan tanks, as that's where they work out really well. I did open up with a 105mm howitzer, as I find extra artillery support always helps out. I was a bad boy this match, and I forgot to use smoke. I didn't use any smoke whatsoever, and you really should try and use smoke whenever you can of this division, especially in more open ground engagements that we're going to see. Yeah, Third Guard Mechanized, it's a pretty good division. The Partisanis are pretty scary, especially with the Molotovs, but it's mainly Sherman spam. Now I'm saying that may sound like a bad thing, but honestly Shermans are one of the worst things, one of the worst tanks to fight against as Hungarian cavalry. And that is due to, surprise surprise, stabilizers. Because in a division that requires and going around corners and getting the first shot advantage or two shot advantage with your Turan runs, it doesn't happen against Shermans. The Shermans always get first shot most of the time because of those goddamn American stabilizers. So the Turan runs don't perform all that well in that regard. So anyway, on the right hand flank, deploying some Hussarooks to try and capture that small village, and the left hand flank doing the same thing. Now, an open ground engagement, the Hussarooks pretty much win, but if the Partisanis get close, those Molotovs are going to be rather scary. Now, the tanks do get holed up here by a single 45mm, but just due to the volume of fire, they beat it out. Easy peasy. I didn't take any recon tanks, any TOD-2s initially, which I probably should have thrown into the mix, as I have no recon here. But as you can see, Krungo is doing the same thing with a tank spam on the right hand flank with 3 Shermans. And 3 Shermans versus 3 Turans. The Shermans are, well, 4 Shermans actually. I can't count. This is going to be rather scary, as you're about to see very shortly. I do drop bombs in them, bringing out Stukan, managing to knock out 2 at least. It does bring out lag 3. I do lose a plane. That's the risk that you take for Stukas. Just one fighter plane can knock you out. But as you can see, the Sherman's thick armor and, good gun is going to be enough to really just eat these Turans up one by one. Though against infantry, I'm holding out pretty well. I'm trying to move this squad up to try and get an AT grenade shot off. But the Partisanis get the Molotov, completely pinned me down, and that is a surrendered Hussarook. Those Molotovs, man, can be pretty scary. And yeah, the right hand flank pretty much just doesn't go all that well. Left hand is a little bit better. Moving the Turan runs out in the open, unsupported. Usually it's not a good idea to rush tanks out in the open, unsupported. But when they're 30 points, you can afford to make that mistake a lot. And that's the nice thing with Hungarians, you can afford to be really risky and really ballsy, just because everything is pretty cheap. You can make dumb maneuvers like risky maneuvers, and it can work out. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does. In the middle here, the Partisanis are outgunning my Hussarooks just because of, well, that's a lot of Partisanis. I do manage to get into this building and catch them out in the open with their pants down. And as you can see, they just eat up the Partisanis for breakfast. Even got the machine gun squad helping out at long range, but it's not doing too much damage. I'd say eating them up, but actually they're surviving pretty well under the semi-automatic rifle fire. I think that's going to be enough to pin them down and get a surrender, actually. I do actually fall them back, I don't know. Anyway, they're pretty much gone. But it's early game phase, I mean, it's still 12-12. Pretty even Stevens, but I'm about to lose his flag on the right-hand flank, and I don't really have much here. Bringing up some more Turan runs, but I kind of need recon and infantry. They're going to go up on the hill. And they just, as you see, Sherman just eat them up for breakfast. Especially when there's 4 of them shooting at you. I do try to get a 40mm AT gun to try and get in position, but he has pretty dumb pathfinding. The artillery is starting to drop some fire on these amateurs. I don't think his 40mm survives either. Yeah, he's pretty much gone. I do get an AA gun for the dual purpose of, keeping the lags array. And as you can see, it does a pretty good job. Yeah, and also if the Sherman try to move up, you think can slow him down. Like I said, it's really nice having that dual purpose. And because his lags are so close, they're taking, AA fire from... They're both taking damage from a single 40mm. Because of the splash damage of flak. Left-hand flank is going pretty well, though. the toadies and Turans have managed to break through, and they're fighting in the forest against guard units, and the Hussars, they beat guards. Guards aren't great, unfortunately. No, Strokey are definitely a much better choice. Or Strokey DP compared to guard DP. Yeah, close range, Turan run, just gonna eat up that 50 cal half track. Yeah, still Trove. Lost the middle due to that one Partisani squad left. And that's some pretty easy flag there for Kringle to keep hold on to. But I also have his 40mm, and even though he's all the way over here, he's managed to get some pretty good hits on these amateurs far out. But he's not going to be able to really kill them just because of its low AP value. Once again, suicidal Turan charge. Not great, but you know, it's only lost 60 points worth of tanks yet, so it's not a huge deal. Finally bringing out some Hussars to try and capture that forest. And also bringing out a Stuka as well. Because I don't have a cluster bomb of Stuka in A phase, so that's why I try to do the best I can. Now, with actual sufficient anti-air, as you see, just 137mm and a Discum truck, it's enough to keep your Stukas array. Not great bombers because of that, they're very easy to scare off, as you can tell. But when you do get the bombs off, you know, you're usually pretty good shots. Once again, Sherman's at close range. Real kryptonite to those Turan tanks. If these were T-34 or 76s, it'd be a much better engagement. Especially with like the 1943 models, as they only have 75mm armor. Even the 90mm armor T-34 and 1942s, I find the Turans can deal with. It's just the extra 10mm with the Shermans. It's just enough to make your 65mm penetration guns. It's just obsolete. Yeah, it's been a pretty uneventful A phase so far. You know, man's captured a little bit of ground, but no real crazy cavalry push. Just, you know, both sides fighting pretty hard. Now we're getting into B phase, or about to start into B phase. We're still in A phase. We've got a huge Partisani spam, and also a Valentine Mark 9 coming out on the left-hand flank, as Kringle wants to take it. He's going to have a hard time in the forest because Hussars are really scary, and also the Turan helps out, yeah, for the AT support. He's trying to get after Machikis in the air. He's also got a lot of these lag fighters now. You move up the Turan run to try to pick off these Partisanis as they come in, but after Machiki unloads and blows them up. We've got the one lone Fokker Wolf trying to engage him. A very ballsy maneuver here, trying to, you know, fly so far behind enemy lines. But he does get out fine because he's a Fokker Wolf, he can fly pretty fast. Probably would have got him if I was using the CR-42, but, you know, once again, I want to give my opponent a chance. I see Hussars, yeah, getting engaged by Avdom Cheekies at very close range, and almost beat him. The 50 cal half track does just, you know, inch out the victory. And there's also now a lot of Partisanis on that left-hand flank, but hey, we got Stuka, and he wants to drop his big fat payload on that Partisani blob. Oh, that's lined up perfectly. I see. Oh no, we drop off map artillery. This is where it starts getting crazy in B phase, because we got 6 off map artillery planes that drop 210mm artillery. Let's use them, and you're gonna see they play great effect in this match. Really one of like the unsung heroes of Lovas is that goddamn artillery plane. And that Partisani squad is just coming right into the center of that off map artillery barrage. And they're just gonna get decimated. As you just see. 210 does not mess about. Completely saturates the area. But Shermans are just making short work of everything. Even the 40mm AT gun is a good time. Really the best way to fight the Shermans is with Pack 40s and Hetchers. And Nimrods. I don't actually use any Nimrods this match. Probably was a bit of a mistake. I think I used one towards the end maybe. Not really in huge numbers. But Nimrod is kind of expensive at 100 points. But it is worth it. It's worth it. Kringle, he's getting more Shermans. He knows that they're fantastic. He's going to be bringing them out in the centre, and that is a scary proposition. Shermans in an open field. I only have like 2 AT weapons that can effectively deal with that. But I did manage to retake the centre barracks at least with some Hussarooks. I also have the Torontos here just for fire support purposes. But yeah, we're just dropping off map everywhere. Dropping someone anti-aircraft now. I believe it does kill the AA. Yeah, he's pretty dead. He will be, yeah, there we go. Because it's the accurate barrage, it fires pretty slowly. But Kringle has meant to completely mop up the left-hand flank. Infantry in the forest, the Hussarooks just go down. Just can't deal with the Shermans, man. Extremely good. Now I'm bringing up Toronto. I think I pretty much 1% out of Toronto around at this point. So that's the reason why they're being brought out. And finally some Hatchers, because the Hatchers are the best shot I have against those Emchers. Even at close range show like this, it's still pretty risky to bring out the Hatchers. But it's the best. It's the best you really have. Once again, this Toronto's going to go around the corner. Guess who gets first shot? Guess who gets first kill? It's the Sherman tank. As you can see, most of the fighting is being just relegated to close quarters areas. Using a lot, not too much artillery spam, just 2 of these 105s. I'm pretty lazy when it comes to artillery personally, and I just leave it to the AI. I just put them on a free fire mode. It's probably a pretty inefficient way to use it, because as you see, sometimes it kind of makes dumb shots. Like, you know, so we're probably a bit more suited shooting over here compared to over here. But I'm just kind of lazy. And once again, I don't really use smoke. And, like, for example, smoke in this area to try maybe smoke out the Shermans probably work out pretty well. But I'm too focused and just dropping so much off map artillery. And once again, right hand side. It's a big blob of units. And they're not going to have a good time in a short period of time. Unfortunately, I don't have any units to push after the off-map drops. It's usually the ideal maneuver. So I don't think too much dies in this barrage, but at least, you know, slows them down just a little bit. That's he kills Sherman. There we go. And it kills another Sherman. Never mind. I forget 210 mils. Don't mess about. Well, left-hand flank here is pretty much shut down completely here by Kringle. And we're like 18 minutes into this match, and it's still pretty neck on neck. Like I said, those Shermans are really good. Also, the 50 cal as well helps out quite a bit when dealing with Turon tanks, because there's a little bit of extra suppression, especially if you get side shots. And also against the infantry. 50 cals are great, is what I'm trying to say. Shermans at long range here, they might as well just be IS-2 tanks. Just killing everything. I did try to make a maneuver onto this town over here. But it's not working all that well because Sherman's on an open field. Do you finally get the Hatcher out? And at long range, a Hatcher can kill Shermans. But it's going to take a little while to try to pick off all of these, because that's a lot of Shermans to deal with. Another 105, so it's going to be 3 heavy artillery. Kruger didn't really use that much artillery this match, only just like some mortars here and there. But still 12-12, it's, like I said, real back and forth. You know, he gets an area, I get an area. But he's pretty happy just holding the left-hand hill, not really maneuvering out of here. I do start dropping off map on this town, because I really want to capture this town, because that's two flags right here. If I can get my infantry in here, the infantry is going to really beat out his infantry. And you can see just fantastic off-map calling, just completely pins down everything. Unfortunately, infantry are unloaded, so I can't just rush in and get the quick capture. That would have been a lot of surrendered units, but that's not going to be the case. Fokker finally managed to pick off the lags. I only got like 140 mil AA piece. The one over here got killed earlier. And do start bringing out these cluster bombers, and they're gonna do pretty good work. It's pretty fortunate because Kringle didn't really have that much in terms of anti-air, and I also did a pretty good job picking them off. I killed the anti-aircraft unit over here and a one over here from earlier. So all he has is his M17, and also M17 over here as well, which are all right. With the Hungarians, if you can keep your, air power under your control, you can really benefit from it just by spamming Stukers. In team games, it doesn't work out well because it's harder to deal with enemy anti-air because there's much more of it. But on a 1v1, know, you can use Stukas effectively if you manage to suppress enemy anti-aircraft fire. Now, do manage to drop into clusters, gets the kill. I mean, it's not cost efficient, you know, only killing one tank per cluster strike. But every Sherman I kill is one less Sherman, and I really don't want to have to fight any more Shermans. They're just really annoying to fight. The Hussars do manage to get into the town. Just barely. Run 2 is getting picked off by the AT rifle of those guard TPs. I had to start to face this match against a bunch of T-34s, Devkas. And yeah, now we're into C phase. Even though it's just an A phase, B phase Rust division, you do have good attrition just because of the amount of units that you have. Like, we still have, you know, a bunch of Tehran runs, we still have a bunch of Hussars, we have some bunch of air power left. You know, we haven't even touched the Todi Mark IIs, I believe, and there's like 20 of those, like, recon tanks to be used. And we still have lots of, it's a lot of spam in this division. It's all, like, good spam. You know, it may be cheap, but, you know, you're really getting good bang for your buck. Yeah, it's just a slow 13-11 over Quingor right now. Real warfare of attrition so far. They're just barely holding on to the right-hand flank. Really, it's due to the fact the Shermans haven't really moved up yet. But look, they're going to move up, and all I have is a Nezapushka AT rifle squad. Which is not going to be enough against a bunch of Shermans, unfortunately. As much as I wish it would be. The funny thing is, this 40mm AT gun actually runs out of ammunition because he's shooting so much onto his right-hand flank. And I forget to resupply him for a long time. Now, left-hand flank, now bringing in the, once again, off-map artillery. Even if the enemy does have a lot of anti-air, you can still use these off-map airplanes extremely efficiently because they only have to be on field or over target within 1 kilometer for just a split second. And you can call in the strike. Yeah, just spamming off-map artillery. I mean, this is a pretty good map for that, because, you know, everything usually gets pretty clustered on the flanks here. It's pretty easy to get them off. But here we go, cluster bomber in effect. Kills one of the Shermans at least, so we only have one more Sherman over here. That's really have to deal with. You know, artillery has to get some pretty good strikes. And more guards on left-hand flank. More guards being brought into the town. His Hetz has just been an absolute champ holding this hill. But he is having a little bit of a hard time killing those T-34s. Using a 40M at close range. And his regular EP shells off. You see that Valentine? Oh, it's just bouncing off those shells. It's using a regular Stuka, I believe, on the Sherman, if I recall. There we go. Not enough to force it to fall back, but unfortunately nothing here to, you know, instantly take advantage of that and push up the hill. So that's really going to be not for much. Do you bring up a Pak 40 over here? I don't know why I brought it in the open. I think I tried to bring it over here initially, but it just got decrewed by something, like machine gun fire. But he's just going to be in the open like an idiot. Now, as you see, really using a lot of these cluster bombers. They work out to be pretty good effect. Unfortunately, it doesn't need to kill the Sherman here, but this blob of T-34s is not going to have a good time. Kills 2 of them, easy peasy. But because I managed to, you know, keep the air power under my control, shooting down those lags, you know, trying to keep the enemy anti-aircraft at bay, I can really take advantage of using these Stukas. They're not, you know, they're not the best bombers in the world, but they're cheap, and if you got air supremacy, oh, bomber's a bomber in the end of the day. I think with some of these off-map artillery, I do end up losing. Well, not losing, but using up all the charges. So sometimes I just have them flying around enemy lines, just for the recon things. Just for the recon bonus. If it dies, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. Yes, this is slow grind out right now. No real crazy +2, +3 advantages. Kringle, got the lead. Managing to hold on to his town over here. He's got the right flank, he's got the left flank. He's doing pretty good. Joe Sherman's working out rather well in his favour. I'm starting to pick him off now. He only has a limited amount of Shermans. And I know for sure I have more tanks than he does. It's just a real sneaky Sherman shot, yeah. That's a really good position. That's a real kill zone on that part of the hill. Bring out another headshot because I lost the first one in the hill. I finally resupplied a 40mm so he can actually get some shots off. But it's not looking all that great. Now Kringle's got a lot of stuff out in the field. He's got tanks covering all areas. But the one thing I have is air power. So I'm just going to try and slowly grind him down with cluster bombers. Once again, is Sherman Emscher better die this time? He does. Emscher over here. Or something gets killed. My left-hand flank, you see, it's not many Shermans left. Especially on top of the hill, so this one-to-run is going to help out quite a bit of dealing with the Russian infantry. Only has 2 machine guns and a crappy HE cannon. But that's going to be enough to tip the scales. I also got the Hussars over here trying to get his guards out in the open. I do have the infantry advantage because, Hussars beat out guards. Just using the Turans, cheap fire support, but I think this one Hussar has kind of outstayed his welcome in that forest. He probably doesn't want to be there much longer. The right hand flank is just getting completely artilleried. Lots of arty dropping down those 105s. I believe we're still up to 3. 3 of them. And yeah, it's just real cluster bombers. The cluster bombers really kept me in the game this match. I keep singing their praises because they're the most efficient way for me to kill Shermans. Once the Shermans go down, I can finally start spreading my rings a little bit. Because then my light tank spam can really come into effect. I finally bring out Hector on the left-hand flank to try and snipe his Shermans at long range. And, starting to work out. In the right-hand flank, now the Shermans are all gone, it's just infantry. And I can deal with infantry easily. Even guard TPs with all their machine guns. They can't beat Hussars. Yeah, I do have my planes on, they don't evac immediately, so sometimes I have empty bomber planes still flying around. That's just a micro inconsistency of my part. Need to pay more attention. And he's starting to use smoke on me now, trying to block line of sight. Probably on, I don't know where he's trying to block line of sight on, but yeah. And here we go. It's what I mean about maneuver warfare. You can make dumb, crazy maneuvers like this with your light tanks. Moving them through to enemy territory, unsupported, by themselves. You wouldn't do this with other tanks, but to run runs, you can afford to do that. And like you see, get 2 easy surrenders right, yeah. And here we go, we're starting to see, the cheap light tank spam coming in. Toady runs and close quarters engagements against a lot of light vehicles and infantry. That's really where they shine. We got more Turan 2s, and we got tank spam for days. We got so many tanks. It's a bit silly. I'm bringing out a cluster bomber to kill one 50 cal half track. I just really wanted it dead. But even though it's not a good point investment kills, it's a very good opportunity kill. Because it allows my Hussars to beat out his guard squad easily now, and slowly start to get back the left-hand flank. Now, as you can see, this really just came down to a war of attrition. As you may notice on Kringle's front, he really doesn't have many of those scary Shermans left. And I still have a lot of tanks. They're not, they're not great tanks pound to pound against Shermans. But they're still tanks. Anything that's armoured and has a machine gun is better than being unarmoured and without a machine gun. Man's completely captured the right-hand flank. Left-hand flank here as well. Out attrition. Finally get a Hetcher over here, and in a good spot too, because he can kill Sherman. He can also kill AA gun if he so desires. And just bringing out the cluster bombers. And as you can see, Kringle's now really heavily investing in anti-air. Because those clusters have been the bane of his existence for this match. Yeah. Yeah. You can see, you know, Panzer capture both of the hills now. The real, you know, key focal points of the map. We just have, you know, just have so many tanks. So many tanks. We do have 2 Shermans here now. Or we just have so many tanks at this point. Yeah. I believe the Shermans were to come around the corner, it does get killed by volume of fire. But hey, that's probably not going to happen because we've got, well, it probably will. Yeah. I think, will a cluster bomber make it? I should just keep my mouth shut until it actually does. And it does, and kills one of them. Kills 2, actually. Something killed the second run. And because of those tanks are out the way now, hey, the Tarantus got the message, and they want to come round and say hello to the Russian front. Yeah, just crazy tank spam. It's just this division. Plus, it gets crazy when you get the toady ones out. Yeah. Now we got the +2 advantage, as we're, you know, starting to put pressure on the town over here. Yeah, this game really, as you can tell, it just came down to a long game attrition. No crazy A-phase rush from either side, but just a good on head-to-head fight. But as you can see, the Hungarians work very well in close quarters on maps such as this. Got a lot of fun units. Their power is really quite crazy, in all honesty, if you can manage to use it effectively. The tank spam is just so plentiful. And the infantry is just godlike. It's seriously the second best infantry in game, apart from stamp shooters, which are undoubtedly the best. And now we're just mopping up everything else. Kringle's pretty much completely defeated at this point. He held a really good match. It was pretty, it got pretty hairy, you know, halfway point. I seriously considered, like, critting around about the 15-20 minute mark, just because of all those goddamn Sherman tanks. But cluster bombers came in and saved my ass. In terms of KD, I do manage to get a lot of kills. I think a lot of that was honestly towards the end. To be fair, as I just was kind of mopping up Shermans left and right and all the infantry blobs. But in terms of kills, as you can see, his Shermans did a very good job. They knocked out quite a lot of stuff in general. And they're, like I said, they're the bane of my existence in that match. In terms of, you know, what I killed, I think nothing really too crazy in terms of, like, singular kill units. It's all pretty spread out. Well, some of the infantry did pretty well. Same with some of these, okay, cluster bombers worked out pretty well as well, even the artillery, but they were on the field the entire match, so I had a long time to rack up that kill list and the Egg Panzers. Okay, yeah, cluster bombers, they did really good. The infantry, that's just quite a lot of standouts, to be entirely honest. Yeah, that's first Lovas. It's an awesome division. It's one of my favourites. I love playing it. Whenever I stream, I always try to get a first Lovas game in. Because they're just good. They're fun. They're maneuverable. You know, you got... If you lose stuff, it's not like, oh boy, I lost my King Tiger. I gotta quit the game now. It's like, oh boy, I lost 3 Turan runs. Good thing I got another trove. And you just bring them out. If you lose some infantry, you got some more infantry. You want that place bombed to death with a bunch of off-map artillery? You know, bring out the Fokker Wolfie 189. You need some cluster bombers? Hey, my Stuka's got you covered. it's a really cool division. And also I like it too. Well, one thing I always like about Eugene Systems and their games is that you always cover, like, weird factions that aren't covered in other, like, strategy games or whatnot. How many other strategy games, apart from, like, Hearts of Iron and ones that technically allow you to play as everything, allow you to play as goddamn Hungary in World War II? I bet a lot of people don't even know Hungary fought in World War II. But here we are with a fully, pretty much fully equipped Hungarian division, or, like, faction in an RTS game, and it's really good. It's not like a dumb meme. It's a powerhouse that can really kick a lot of ass with meme units. Of course, it's not 100% meme, but it's a good division and it's cool. I really like it from the historical standpoint of playing something that's a little bit less underrepresented. That's not a word. Underrepresented. That's how you say it. Unlike, always playing the big five, UK, Britain, UK, America, Soviet Union, Germany, Japan, etc., which you see all the time in every single World War II game. But yeah, that's political round out array. And yeah, play Lovas, it's awesome. And well, I'm gonna leave it off at this has been another Angry Unit of the Week. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as usual, please just take it easy.